Louis Riddick, who does a great job with the NFL, joining us on the program. Louis, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing great, Dan. How are you? Thanks for having me on.
Sure. Let me start with at the top. I don't know. I'm sure you saw where Pete Prisco of CBSSports.com had a headline that said, maybe the Cardinals are going to pass on Kyler Murray, ? Why would that be out? Why would that information be out there today on Monday?
Well, there's a lot of information, quote unquote, that's out there on Monday that isn't necessarily credible information or good information because, every GM right now likes to play I Spy. They like to play, I'm going to trick you. I'm going to put some feelers out there just to kind of keep people, guessing as to what exactly it is that they're going to do because it doesn't really benefit them to have anybody knowing exactly what they want to do. And I'm sure, look, if you look at it objectively, there's a number of different reasons as to why not drafting a quarterback would make sense for them also as far as building out the rest of their football team. And besides the fact that, just a little while ago, about a year ago, they did trade up to draft a kid named Josh Rosen, who happens to be there, who happens to have played just one season behind an abysmal offensive line, but for now potentially going to go ahead and ship down the road for another quarterback. So, look, there's a number of, I'm sure that in that organization, in their draft room, in their meeting rooms right now, and at the highest levels of that organization, they're sitting there going, are we really going to do this? Are we really going to, a year removed from drafting what we thought was our franchise quarterback, going to draft another one? Well, I guess it's possible considering that they, blew a coach out of there in less than a year as well. So philosophically, I don't really know if they know what they're doing. So how can you really tell about what they're going to do at the top of the draft this year? I mean, it's a very weird, unique situation with them.
All right, what would you do, and what should the Cardinals do if you were the GM and you had the final choice? What would you do at the top of the draft?
Well, I'll tell you this: look, if I hired Cliff Kingsbury, and my owner was sitting there at the press conference to introduce him, saying, did you watch him at Texas Tech? Do you remember how that offense was there? I want some of that here in the Valley. I want an offense, high-powered, prolific offense like that. That's what's exciting to me. That's where the league's going. That'll put people in the seats. That's what gets people excited. Well, then I'm going, well, okay. Well, how are we going to get what really gives us the best chance to bring all those things that he really just described to this football team? Well, our coach has already said how much he loves Kyler Murray, that if he would draft him number one overall previous to getting the job. Well, I think, if that's what we want, and we're really resetting this organization once again, and the coach feels very strongly that this guy gives us the best chance to bring all those things that the owner wants, then I'm drafting Kyler Murray. That's what I'm doing. Now, objectively speaking, if we hadn't changed coaches and we were just looking at this football team organically and trying to just build it, yeah, you could look at making the case for drafting one of these defensive linemen in particular and continuing to build this football team front to back and making sure we take care of the offensive defensive line. Then you'd be looking at Bosa. Then you would be looking at Quinnen Williams. Those are the kind of guys you'd be looking at because those are the kind of guys that make sense to go to in terms of trying to build this football team, objectively. But it's not like that. The only reason why Kyler is being talked about at the top of the draft is because of the unique circumstances surrounding this coach, what he has said, reading just kind of following the breadcrumbs as far as what Michael Bidwell said at their opening press conference and why they hired Cliff Kingsbury in the first place. So it's what we would do objectively and what this team is probably going to do in the lines along with what they're thinking, they don't match up. And that's what makes it so intriguing. That's why you're going to have people saying, maybe they don't draft Kyler. Then there's people saying 99% they draft Kyler. We don't know. That's why you got to tune in on Thursday night.
Second best quarterback in the draft, or second quarterback to be drafted, if that's one and the same.
Yeah, and they're not. The best quarterback in this draft is Dwayne Haskins. The second quarterback to be drafted may be Drew Lock, may be Daniel Jones. I don't know where Dwayne Haskins is going to go. I don't know how. I think all teams have these guys stacked very differently because quarterback is about flavor. It's about fit. It's about style. It's about
okay, wait, Louis, let me go back. So you're saying the best quarterback in this draft is
Dwayne Haskins. Is Dwayne Haskins, no doubt. There's no doubt about it, he is. And I know his resume is limited. 1 year as a starter. What the kind of coaching that he got at Ohio State, Ryan Day should be in the NFL. People should be knocking down his door to try and get him to the NFL. Why? because his passing game concepts, you're going to see them explode in 2019. Ohio State hasn't even reached their potential as far as what they can do offensively, and that's a whole other story. Dwayne, highly football intelligent. Just listen to the guy explain Ohio State's passing concepts. Listen to him explain how defenses tried to play them and why he made the decisions that he made. You can see why he threw 50 touchdowns. As far as throwing the football, classic pocket passer who has underrated, misdiagnosed mobility in the pocket. He's a guy who can spread the ball horizontally, vertically, can throw it at all three levels, had some tremendous weapons at Ohio State. There's really nothing not to like about him. Nothing. He grew every game this past year. I know he only has 1 year as a starter, but within that 1 year, you saw him face adversity within games from week to week and always figure it out, always come out on top. And when I went to his pro day, look, and I'm one of those people who has said, don't get enamored with pro days. It's just a piece of the puzzle. It's just another piece of information to use. I'm telling you, he worked on everything that he needed to work on between the time the season ended and that pro day to kind of, calm people's fears that, one, he didn't have quick feet or didn't have mobility in the pocket, which is ridiculous. He does. And two, that he couldn't throw on the run with consistent accuracy, which if you watch this pro day, the kid has a tremendous arm and tremendous accuracy. There's nothing not to like. If you put him in a situation where ideally Dwayne could sit for a year, really get comfortable with the offense, continue to work on his physical maturation, and sit and learn and watch how some of the best professionals who play that position prepare, play the game, correct mistakes after the game is over, prepare the next week, take care of their body, take care of themselves off the field. It's a guy who actually threw 50 touchdowns this year in his second year in the pros who had the benefit of sitting and learning from the same type of guy in Kansas City, that being Patrick Mahomes learning from Alex Smith. Dwayne can get that situation. I could see the same kind of thing happening to him, provided that they put the weapons around him like Andy put around Patrick. I could see the same type of thing happening. And you know what's ironic? I don't think Dwayne gets past 15 to Washington anyway. And guess who's in Washington? Although he may never play again, we don't know. Alex Smith. Guess who else is in Washington? Case Keenum. It's a perfect situation for him to learn. Now, they have a lot of work to do as far as getting them weapons. But I'm telling, as you can see, I could go on and on about him and why I believe in him. He is a fantastic prospect who I've gotten to know personally pretty well now as this pre-draft process is going on. I'm all in. I'm all in on number 7 from Ohio State.
The best player in the draft is?
Oh, wow. You know what? I would say this, and this is going to catch some people by surprise. The best player in this draft, some people will say Quinn Williams, some people are going to say Nick Bosa. I'll tell you this. For my money, pound for pound, the best player in this draft is Devin Bush from Michigan, inside linebacker. If you can tell me exactly what his weakness is, I can show you a play that tells you it's not a weakness. I played with his father in Atlanta in 1996 or 97, 95, one of those years. Anyway, his father was a safety from Florida State. This kid has all of his father's tenacity, speed, striking ability. He has better football instincts. His football smarts are off the charts.
But is that an important position, though, Lewis? That would be my question.
You know what? Great question. The game has changed, Dan, right? I mean, the game, as far as how people are attacking you on offense, it's become critical that you have great athletes and smart athletes in the middle of the field at linebacker and at safety. That's why you're seeing guys like Roquan Smith getting drafted as high as he got drafted by Chicago last year. That's why Devin White's going to go top 10 this year from LSU. That's why Devin Bush is going to go top 10 from Michigan this year. You better be able to defend teams that can attack you with running backs and tight ends in the middle of the field where you're not allowed to hit anybody. There are some great athletes who teams will just carve you up between the numbers right down the field. First down. It's how New England has just kind of made the rest of the league look silly. They started doing it years ago with Gronk and Hernandez. They still do it now. And now they just changed their philosophy a little bit as Gronk got older, and they started doing it with running backs. Rex Burkhead, James White, the guys who are catching passes over and over again. You're going, damn, how is Brady keep doing this? Bill has always been out ahead of the curve. You better start catching up as far as getting athletes in the middle of the field. Middle linebacker and safety, they're not throwaway positions anymore. They're just not. If you don't have them, you won't stop anybody in the NFL. Maybe that's what the league wants, That's how most teams kind of. And if you view it that way as a team builder, you're not going to stop anyone. That's why you're going to see more and more guys who can play defense like that to combat some of these hybrid tight ends. You better have them. It's the same thing. Like, all right, why did Quentin Nelson go as high as he did to Indianapolis last year? Well, more teams are looking for Fletcher Cox and Aaron Donald. Why? Because all the best quarterbacks say, get me a defensive tackle. If I have a defensive tackle that's going to just absolutely just terrorize me right up the gut, play after play like Aaron and Fletcher, that's how you can best rattle me and get me off of my game. Well, the only way you can combat Fletcher Cox and Aaron Donald is if you have guys like Quentin Nelson. The game's changed, man. It's not just about, well, I just got to have a corner and a left tackle and a pass rusher, and after that I'm good. You can just find me any old stiff off the street to play guard. It's not like that anymore. And that's why positional values have changed. They've morphed. And if you're not with that, you're just not going to be playing in January and then ultimately in February. And the best teams are doing it. And that team in New England's been doing it for years now.
Yeah, I had a scout who told me last year that Nelson, he thought was the best player in the draft. And that's why when the Colts took him, I said, you know what? They got a guy that's going to be there 10 years. He's going to be an all-pro. And he plays with an attitude, and he's ready for the challenge, and he lived up to the hype as well. We're talking to Louis Riddick from ESPN. I'll leave you with this, Louis. The potential top 15 pick who makes you nervous.
Oh boy, I would probably say the one that makes me nervous the most is Montez Sweat from Mississippi State, and not necessarily because obviously because there's some concern about his health from a heart condition standpoint. That's that information is out there. But there are teams that will take him off the board. There are teams that won't be concerned about it. That it's a deal that he can play with, and teams are not that concerned. And then other teams say, look, we won't want to assume the risk. Going past that, though, despite the fact that he is an absolute freak and a phenomenon from an athletic standpoint, as tall and as long and as fast as he is, running low 4.4s. As big as he is, I mean, that's just ridiculous. You're not supposed to do that as a human being. But he's one of those guys that when you watch his film doesn't always look like his combine workout does, and those guys always scare me, especially when you're talking about somebody who can go maybe in the top 10 and who may have a health concern. That's a tricky one for me. That's one of those guys to keep an eye on. Just remember his name on Thursday night, because I'm sure if his name starts sliding, the chatter will start to increase about, is it the health concern? Is it the concern that maybe his play doesn't match up with his measurables? So he's the one that would scare me the most, maybe.
Great stuff, Louis. Have fun in Nashville. Tell the boys we said hello, and we appreciate your time as always.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot.
That's Louis Riddick, ESPN NFL analyst. I think he likes Dwayne Haskins just a little bit there. That's a little bit of a warm take there for Louis Riddick. ESPN's coverage live from Nashville, all 7 rounds, Thursday night. Trey Wingo, Mel Kiper, and Booger McFarland on the ESPN main set. ESPN to the main set. Friday night and Saturday, they have their coverage throughout the weekend as well.
For more Dan Patrick Show, tune into Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV. Stream for free on BR Live or download the Dan Patrick Show app.